The teenager who killed 9 in a gun rampage in Munich is described by police as a disturbed loner, as Europe faces a new reality after 2 deadly attacks in barely a week. Police say the killer was obsessed with mass shootings and guns, adding there's an obvious link with neo-Nazi Anders Breivik, who carried out Norway's worst massacre on the same day 5 years ago. And in other news today, over 60 are feared dead and more than 200 injured after 2 suicide bombers targeted a minority rally in Afghanistan's capital. Hi, it's 5 p.m. here in Moscow. My name's Kevin Owen here at RTHQ. Thanks for watching us. And the big news today, then, Germany reeling still, of course, from that mass shooting in the city of Munich last night, where a teenage attacker took the lives of 9 people aged between 13 and 45 before then turning the gun on himself.
It was horrible because next to our flat there was a woman who was covered in blood. My wife had a bottle of water. We helped to clean her. It was horrible and left me speechless.
My son was shot dead. I'm living as if in a nightmare. I still cannot believe what has happened.
What is known about the shooter is that he was an 18-year-old German citizen of Iranian origin. Munich prosecutors have said that he was in psychiatric care and treated for depression. His neighbours described him as a very quiet boy. Police claim that no link to Islamic State has been established so far. It's also been revealed that the teenage killer used a Facebook page to try to lure unsuspecting victims, offering free food. RT's Nikki Aarons in Munich, where people are on edge after yesterday's horrific attack.
After a night of panic and terror here in Munich, after an 18-year-old gunman opened fire on unsuspecting diners in this McDonald's restaurant, he then turned his attention to the Olympia Mall, which is just across the street. Now, throughout the day, people have been arriving to lay flowers, light candles and leave messages of condolences outside the mall, coming here almost as if to check that it was a reality, that this really happened. Now, the city was gripped throughout the night as the police announced a city on lockdown and a huge manhunt, and people were glued to their television screens as they watched shoppers being led down the street with their hands raised above their heads, in striking similarity to those scenes from Nice when that terror attack struck on Bastille Day. And this morning the confirmation that it wasn't just a bad dream was plain to see. It was plastered all over the newspapers with headlines such as "Bloodbath in Munich" and "Horror." Now, we've been gauging the reaction of local people throughout the day.
People who only go shopping and now they are dead, and young people, old people, I don't know.
I was standing on the balcony, smoking a cigarette. Suddenly I heard shots. First I thought someone had thrown firecrackers. Then I looked down at McDonald's, and suddenly I saw someone shooting into the crowd.
How could I be sure that my 3.5-year-old son would not have been injured there?
Now, the feeling in Munich today is that people are very much uneasy and very much on edge. I spoke to a taxi driver earlier who told me that he, his family and friends will be avoiding all public spaces where crowds may be gathered, and indeed even avoiding public transport for the foreseeable future for fear of more attacks. So the scene in Munich today is a city on edge.
We've spoken to several experts who say the massacre adds to a general atmosphere of fear now in Europe.
I think it's going to be a continuing trend. I think it's going to get a lot worse. Well, let's look at the Tunisian fellow who committed the massacre in Nice. Evidently, there was nothing on the radar screen. He was a petty criminal. He was not, as far as they know, on the terrorist watch radar screen in any way. He did not seem to be somebody who presented this kind of threat. This is an indication that things are going to get a lot worse before they get better.
It's very, very difficult to prevent any terrorist attack. if you want to truly defeat terrorism, you've got to try and defeat the causes of the dissent, the social, economic and political causes. But it's impossible to prevent terrorism full stop in the real world as we stand at the moment. But it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a huge intelligence capability as well.
We're living in obviously very tense times, but I think what we can now know is that Europe today lives in a climate of fear as a result of these ongoing attacks.
Meantime, the political fallout. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has been blamed by the public for this recent spate of violence in the country, with some there calling for a resignation now.
The relatives of the raped and killed should thank Angela Merkel for the destruction of Germany.
What will it take for Angela Merkel to resign from office? German people need to wake up. She's responsible for all of this.
Angela Merkel must leave after this because she's dangerous for the whole of Europe.
Well, she did speak last hour, but the Chancellor's delayed appearance has seen the hashtag "Where is Merkel?" doing the rounds online. She addressed the public, indeed, almost 24 hours after that awful attack took place. In her statement, the Chancellor expressed sympathy for the victims and their loved ones. She also praised police for the response to the situation in Bavaria there. I think they've received pretty good praise all round from most people, but some were critical of her delayed public reaction, saying that some world leaders, like the American president, for instance, commented on the event before she did. We discussed that with the former German intelligence officer, Rainer Rupp. He actually spoke to me just last hour.
Surely she is under pressure, and of course there is a big weight resting on her, and I think she has her reaction in the past to these kind of, to these terror attacks which were clearly linked to the refugee issue, where she tried to circumvent it, bypass it, or sit it out. Basically, now she's in a situation that whatever she says, nobody is going to believe her, or not nobody, but people have made up their mind. And just the most recent poll of our second TV chain, the official public TV chain, ZDF, actually points out that now a record 3/4, 75% of the German population think that because of the refugee issue, more terrorism will actually happen in Germany.
Munich police say there was no political motive behind the attack and that it has nothing to do with the EU refugee crisis.
Evidence points to the fact that the perpetrator acted alone. At this point, absolutely no link has been established between the attacker and the refugee crisis.
Based on what was found in his apartment, all the mass shooting materials in particular, we have concluded that this is a classic example of a mass shooting with no political motivation whatsoever.
In fact, authorities say the attacker had no criminal record, but had twice been the victim of an assault himself. An unverified video apparently shows a suspect shouting obscenities at Turks. Three of the victims, it turns out here, were Turkish too. Police claim there is a, quote, obvious link between the Munich shooting and far-right mass murderer Anders Breivik, who killed 77 in Norway 5 years ago. In fact, the attack in Munich happened on what was the 5th anniversary of that atrocity. We got reaction from the right-wing Alternative for Germany party. Hans-Jörg Müller blames the recent violence on the government for failing to bring together the various elements of Germany's multi-ethnic society.
The main reason is that integration of Muslims in Germany has failed. Mrs. Merkel is a person without any emotions and any sympathy towards own German citizens. As long as Germans are the victims, she's silent. And very interesting is now to analyze the reactions toward this fact. This fact is being hidden, is being disguised by German mass media. It was a Muslim terrorist attack, and this is not being pronounced.
But he himself said repeatedly in that video that we saw right after on the roof of the car park, "I am German, I am German."
Yeah, he shouted He shouted, I was born in Germany, but he's a Muslim born in Germany, and that's why I stated that integration has failed. His ancestors, his roots are from Iran, and if integration had worked, he would not have shouted that he's German, because then...
But does that not refer to him identifying himself as a German if he said that, if he took the chance at that situation to point out that he was born in the country and he sees himself as German?
There was a shouting going on between one German and the other Iran German. It was only heating up emotions. I have to state the fact that integration has failed because this guy, he was born in Germany 18 years ago. But obviously he hated German culture, hated German citizens because he shot Germans. So I only want to ask questions. What do we do now if we state that integration has failed? We have to do something. We have to sort out things.